we all are sitting on things that it makes no sense to us. Um, we're waiting for an answer to pop up, something God come in and just strike it all down, and many times it doesn't happen that way. So how do we deal with the things that we don't understand? So we're going to be looking at a lot of what we're looking at tonight is God is still in it. And we're going to look at the boys, the three boys. But before we go there, I want us to look at Isaiah 43. Let's get a running start on it all. And hopefully it'll open up some lot of really deep discussion. But in Isaiah 43, if I can get a reader, for now we're just going to take 1 through 4, please.
I can do that.
Thank you, Cindy.
Isaiah 43, 1 through 4. I'm reading from the NIV. But now this is what the Lord says, He who created you, O Jacob, He who formed you, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. I am the Lord, your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. I give Egypt for your ransom, Cush and Seba in your stead. Since you are precious and honored in my sight, and because I love you, I will give men in exchange for you and people in exchange for your life.
All
Do
right.
not be, oh, go
That's
ahead.
okay. Let's stop right there. It goes on and says, do not be afraid. Let's talk about what she just read. Look at what she just read. What stands out? What is it saying? How does it speak to you? And then we're going to kind of break some things down, unpack it.
Well, to be honest, you're welcome.
Go
To
ahead,
be
G.
honest,
Hmm.
uh, I guess I'm not very trusting in it. Like, I don't really feel like it's that personal to me because not to say like these things wouldn't be happening, but I just feel like what's happening, I've said this before, what's happening in my individual life, I think just really doesn't matter that much to God's grand plan. Like, okay, like me not having a job or us having to sell our house really has nothing to do with him bringing the kingdom here. Like, I mean, it is to me, I'm like, yeah, it's a big deal to me, but not a big deal to God. Not that he doesn't care, but like that just doesn't have that much of an effect on, I don't know, Jesus coming back and ushering the kingdom. So I'm like, okay, you say these things, then I'm like, I think I don't know how to explain that. It doesn't feel that personal to me. It feels very much about I'll be with you to usher in my kingdom. I'll be here to usher like Jesus. Like, does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's real for you. That's what you're feeling. Okay. Who else? What do you get from it? How does it speak to you? MJ.
Um, I started at the Old Testament and I'm reading through and I'm in just about starting First Kings. So I'm just reading now through the part where, or had finished reading through, God brings Israel out of Egypt, and the whole time they're complaining. And even then, um, they, once they kind of get where they are, then they say, well, we want our own king. You were supposed to be our king, but we want our own. So they're like really kind of spitting in his face, but he's still saying, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. So even though, even in Jacob, when he's wrestling with God, like they're all running amok, but he's still saying, fear not, for you're mine, which I know she said it maybe didn't speak to her, but for me, is a little comforting because we all make mistakes. It's all easy to look at what they did, but if I was walking through the desert and I didn't have food and I didn't really have water and it was hot, I probably would complain too, you know. So it's nice that like we aren't perfect as we're going through life, but it's still like okay, like he's still
Right.
calling us, we're still his.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Victoria.
I I appreciate G's vulnerability. I feel the same way in a lot of instances, but then I turn around and I think there's so many times that I'm like, God, why did you this? Or why didn't you this? Or why did you this? And then I think about what I've done for him. I want the all the you do for me part, but the me I do for him part is lacking.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Cindy, did I see your hand?
Um, I had written in my Bible that just things that it reminded me of. So in verse 2, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And I put the Red Sea. And then, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. And I thought about them crossing the Jordan River. And then when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. And I have Daniel next to that. The flames will not set you ablaze, for I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel. And I give, so he's ransoming them. There's a transaction going on. I understand how G feels, what she's up against. But I wanted to say something encouraging, you know. Um, we had a Women's Day service, and there were a lot of really great testimonies. The one that stood out for me personally was with someone else who was 70 years old, like me, and she's been a disciple of Jesus and a follower for eons. Her name is Sonia Mohammed. She is so awesome. She got up and she said, whenever I was at my wit's end, God would always come through. I would always have strength when I needed it. And I think she was a single mother and her car broke down. And then she'd say, another car would show up. And just his provision would be not too soon, but not too late. And I know that it's easy, you know, to kind of sit there and kind of say that, but it really spoke to me because she said it with such strength. And then she quoted a whole bunch of scriptures like Psalm 34, Psalm 37, and a number of other ones. So this section in Isaiah is something that do not be afraid, for I am with you, that I've really hung on to it's highlighted twice. And I'm glad that we came here because I haven't read it in a long time. But all of us are precious in his sight because we're part of Jesus. We've been seated in the heavenly realms. So I think it's just good to hear these things and hold on to them. And especially Sonia just really inspired me.
Awesome. Thank you. Amen. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, what I want us to see, obviously, as we're hearing people share where they stand with things, we're very individual and we're very different people. And as life deals us various cards, it it shakes us, it rattles us. Sometimes we're standing firmly, sometimes we're not. So our viewpoint, our vantage points will change. So as we look at scriptures like this, we've got to very much individualize it. God, what are you saying to me? What are you trying to get me to see? And as I walk through this, but now, this is what the Lord says. He who created you, Jacob, and formed you, Israel. Let's just break those two pieces down, especially my Bible scholars. Sounds like he's talking about two different people, but are they? Jacob, Israel. What do we know about Jacob and Israel?
Uh,
Split.
Jacob, mm,
Go ahead, Brenda.
um, I think Jacob comes before Israel. Jacob had to be, yeah, like Israel had to be formed out of Jacob because Jacob had to go through um, almost like twice being reminded, I am giving you a new name. Do you believe it? And he had to live through that life in order to be reformed or formed into what Israel is, and he had to give forth life. So it's almost like it's also interesting that then he's like, I like I will like it's like he went through the methods of purification to get to become Israel. Like, something about that. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. Yes, thank you. What is the difference? He used the two words. He says, "He who created you and he who formed you." What's the difference between something that's created and something's formed?
I so to create is I could mold you, model you, whatever, or model something and say, oh, I created this. But to form it, I have to take it through numerous testings in order for it to be like, is it really worthy of being put through, like to be put out into the public, then to be, yeah. So I even think about like as a human being, God created me in my mother's womb, but as Brenda now, he has gone through so many formulations of me, forming me into the person I am right now.
Yes, we are in different stages of forming, honestly, which is why our answers to that initial question can be very different. Am I in my Jacob stage? Because his name was Jacob. And
Mm-hmm.
then he went through wrestling with the angel and all of that. And then God brought him from Jacob to now that I'm making you a nation, you will be Israel.
Right.
So God is taking us somewhere, but we have to go through the transformation in order to get there, which is what Brenda's talking about. And oftentimes, that's the part where we fight back because it doesn't feel good. Cindy, I saw your hand go up.
No, that was it.
Okay. So different people are in different forms are in different areas of transformation. So you might be sitting in your Jacob stage right now. God created me, and I'm just going to sit in the fact that I was created by God. Really, if you think about the creation, we have no skin in the game. When you are created in your mother's womb, you didn't ask for it. You didn't contribute to it. You had nothing to do with it. It just, bam, happened. You were meant to be. But then when we get to the forming part, then we have a say. We can push back. We can say, God, this doesn't feel good. We can say, I don't like this. We can say, I ain't going. That's where our obedience, disobedience, all of that comes into play. Does that slow us down, speed us up, help us out? What happens in the forming stage for us? That's
I
different than
mean,
the,
in the forming process, it can be anything. Sometimes it's really, 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 really slow, whereby like, is there any rain coming? Because there's like just where you feel like you're in a desert and everything around you is dry. And then there's sometimes when we're in the garden and we feel everything is plentiful. And so it's always, yeah, there's always something in the forming.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. G and then MJ.
I was just gonna say that the forming reminds me so much of pottery and if anyone has done pottery, like you start out with whatever, nothing, and then depending on how fast you spin, depending on how wet your hands are, turns it into whatever it's going to be. And sometimes you spin too fast and it unmolds, and you have to reform it. Like, and so when I think about pottery, it's like there's several stages of pottery for it to come out to whatever the vase it's going to be or whatever the bowl it's going to be. But even like each hand movement makes a different movement in it. So I think it just reminded me that like sometimes you have to go to scratch again and then you reform it and then it still doesn't work out. So you're like, let me start over again. And then it's like, oh, I need to spin it faster. I need more water. it's getting dry. So yeah, there's just a lot that goes into it before it becomes that final stage. And even before that, then you finally get the shape, and then it has to go into the kiln under a bajillion degrees. And then you paint it. And then that has to get, there's like it almost is almost never finished. Even
Right.
though it does at some point.
Right. Okay. Very good. Great. Very descriptive. MJ.
I was kind of thinking about for in nature too, but most of the time, any really quick change for any land formation comes from something very violent. And then anything that takes a very long span of time might be a little more gentle. Like
Mm,
when you see rocks that have like the small little water going through it because it's eroded it over time, but it took a while to get there, versus ones that have been like cracked from falling or like lightning or something. So the faster it is, kind of the more violent the transformation feels.
right. Good. Good. So think about it, whether it's the rocks being formed and the smoothness or the cracks in it or the pottery being formed. What if you have two people working on something at the same time? You're working on this thing at the same time, both of you working at it together. Is that easier?
Wait, like simultaneously as a parallel or
Simultaneously.
together together?
Let's say we're going with the pottery and you're both trying to form this pot together. What kind of hiccups could come into play?
There's they there's we're all coming in with different, like my hands might be bigger than the other person's or smaller. Communication, the direction I'm thinking and the direction you're thinking. I mean, it's like many variables, even in that same space. Yeah.
Right. Angel, then I see Victoria's hand.
There we go. Um,
Oh, good.
if one person wants to make a bowl and one person wants to make a plate, there's gonna be a lot of issues that happen there, and um, or even if you're like, okay, I want to make a cup, well, maybe one person wants to make a tall cup, maybe one person wants to make a mug, maybe, so it's like there's you can have a totally different idea of what the outcome is, even though you're trying to reach the same goal. You vision it, the vision of it's different, the way you go about it's different. um yeah, so
Yeah, very good. Very good. Victoria, thanks, Angel.
That's what I was going to say is everybody has their own vision. And even if you discuss things beforehand and you say, okay, we're going to get the water and then we're going to put it on the wheel and then we're going to hold it and we're going to do this. The vision in each of our head is very different unless you're both looking at the exact same picture and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And their skill levels are different and there's different patient levels. And I I don't do team. I do me. And this is why. Because, it's you have to be patient with the other person and you also want them to be patient with you. It's just there are so many things that can come in if somebody puts, just like G was saying, if you even have like long fingernails and it scrapes the pottery and it makes a design throughout the whole thing, and you're like, what is that?
Mhm.
It's just the vision and the goal. And uh, getting two people to work together can be hard enough, but getting a whole nation to work together, I can't believe God didn't just kill everybody and say, forget this.
All right. I'll come to you in a second, Cindy. This is the story of our lives with God. And he establishes where he wants us to go. He establishes who's in control, who isn't in control, really right from the beginning, which we're going to take a look at that in just a second. Cindy, what were you going to share?
Oh, this pottery discussion reminds me of a couple chapters ahead in
Hmm.
Isaiah 45:9. Does the clay say to the potter, "What are you making?"
Right,
It
right,
does. In my
right.
case.
in all of our cases. And we need to simply see it, acknowledge it, and
Right.
understand that we're making it more difficult because our hands are also in the clay. But I love how he sets it up. He talks about in 43, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. First of all, what does that mean? I have redeemed you. I've created you. I'm forming you. I've redeemed you. What does that mean?
Like given new life, like brought you
Mhm.
back, saved you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rescued.
Then he goes on and says, I've summoned you by name. What is he saying? You are mine. I've summoned you by name.
Well, it's like he knows everyone's name.
Hmm. Hmm. Angel, did I see your hand?
Yeah, uh, for me, it's to clarify that it is personal. He's talking about
Mhm.
you. He's not there's not, because like G said earlier, I think in a lot of cases it's really easy to feel like our relationship with God isn't, or like the way that our lives are turning out, there's not a lot of personal, you know, involvement, it feels like at times, but it's him clarifying, I am involved. I know what's going on. I know what needs to be done. I know what's best for you. And as far as the pottery thing we were talking about too, knowledge is a big part of it too. Because if me, who's never done pottery, is working with someone that does it for a living and it's their expertise, I'm going to be of no help to that person. And I'm going to slow them down. I'm going to make their job harder, which is what we're doing with God too, because God knows and we don't. And we'd like to think we know.
Yes, very good. It is God saying, guys, this is personal. I know it feels at times that it is not. And that's something we're going to have to wrestle with. We're going to have to get there, and it's okay to go through it because when life is coming at you, you're like, everything G said, I'm done. I'm done with all this crazy. But God is saying, but I have summoned you. I've created you, I've formed you, I've redeemed you, and now I'm summoning you by name, which means it is very personal. I love the fact before that he brings Jacob and Israel with us. In other words, I'm bringing your past and your present together. A lot of times we want to either rid ourselves of our past. I don't want to see Jacob ever again. Jacob was bad news, don't want to, it's like we want to leave our past behind and just move towards our future. But he's saying, but your past is part of your future. So we're not forgetting Jacob. Neither are we praising Israel. We're bringing them both together because I've summoned you. I'm taking you somewhere. And then he gives a beautiful analogy, and Cindy mentioned this earlier. He gives us hope in the next verse, in verse 2. He says, when you pass through the waters, what?
I will be with you.
I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, what?
They will not sweep you over.
Had they experienced, Cindy gave her, she went through Exodus, going through the
Mm.
Red Sea. That was the example. And then when the river, he's talking about the Jordan River. These people that he's talking to are in exile. Have they experienced what he's talking about?
Um, no, but they've heard the stories.
They've heard the stories.
Mm.
Just like we sit and we read these Bible stories, we haven't personally gone through it,
Mm-hmm.
but we've heard the stories. So when we are being formed, transformed, it's easy to go, well, yeah, he did it for them, but what about me?
Mhm.
Because we haven't personally experienced it. And that's why G can say, and Victoria can say, and any of us can say at any given time, I don't know if God is really talking about me personally,
Mm-hmm.
because I've heard the stories. I know he did it for them, but he has not yet shown up for me. So he gives us these past experiences. And this one I had to sit with for a while. And Cindy, you and Brenda might be able to help me more. Um, the next one, when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. That's where we're going to go and take a look in a minute of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. There were some years, however. What's the distance time-wise between Isaiah and the occurrence that took place in Daniel? Do we have any idea? I couldn't find.
It says, I just looked this up, that there are 3 books. In other words, in Isaiah, it's divided up into 3 sections, actually 4
Right.
from some other commentaries. And that chapters 40 to 55, scholars believe these were written during the Babylonian captivity, as the text
Right.
assumes the exile has already happened and offers comfort to those in captivity. Where that falls into place with Daniel, it could be happening like pretty close
Simultaneous. Yeah.
simultaneously. Yeah.
Mm.
And then the chapters 56 through 66, these appear to be written after the captivity when the people had returned to Jerusalem. I did not know that. So thank you, Google.
Yes. That's what I've been checking all morning as I was going through this, because here where it gets really interesting. The first part, he says, when you pass through the waters, which they didn't experience. And the second one, when you pass through the river. But then this one, he says, almost like, yeah, but this one's going to be on you when you walk through. So it's almost like they've got the past that they'd heard about. And then here's another past that you heard about. Oh, but this one's for you.
One's coming.
This one's coming. Why would he give them 2 past experience and a future experience to
Build
consider?
trust.
How does that build trust? Angel.
Well, we know God came through. We know that he was with them and the waters didn't pass over them. And it doesn't mean they still had to go through it, but God came through in the end. And that's what I'm getting from this whole thing is God never says you don't have to go through them. Like you don't have to go through the hard things. He just says
Right.
he'll be there with you and he'll help you through it. And
Yes.
I feel like sometimes as believers and as we get closer to God, we think like, oh, like we get in a delusion that like, well, we shouldn't have to go through these hard things anymore. But it's written all throughout. Like we are going to go through the hard things and it's not going to be easy. But God's with us even if we don't see him or feel him all the time.
Beautifully stated. Thank you. Victoria, I see your hand.
Well, the first thing that stood out to me was when, not
Mhm.
if, not maybe, but when, because this is going to happen, which I hate, but at least I know. And then I think the 2 pasts and the 1 future is so that when it does happen, they remember.
Yes. Yes. You guys are hitting on everything. God is saying, I did it for them. I would do it again. You're not passing through something that I haven't already come through with. And as Victoria said, and it's not about if, when. Our thinking gets us in trouble. Again, if we are the potter in the clay, that's when we start messing up, when we start putting our hands in things because he's summoning us to go in a certain direction. We don't like that direction. So we start squeezing the clay, trying to shift it into a different shape because we're trying to avoid the win. We're like, no, 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 I don't want to go that way. Oh, I don't want that to happen. Don't mess up my wedding. Oh, no. It's like there's parts of us that keeps trying to jump in. And God's like, remember, I got this. I have your hands on it with me, but you are not the one actually forming it. I am. And we get in the way. Let's take a look now. Go over to Daniel chapter 3. Very familiar story for those who've been around for a while. We're going to read through it, comb through, see if we can see again where God has built enough trust in these boys for them to go through what they're going through without them putting their hand in the clay and messing things up. Daniel 3, who can I get to read? I can
Okay.
get, do you want to take the whole chapter for those maybe who haven't heard the story? Feel
Sure.
comfortable with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I am reading from the NIV. Um, King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold, 90 feet high and 9 feet wide, and set it up on a plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the provincial officials assembled for the dedication of that image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "This is what you are commanded to do, O peoples of nations and men of every language. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into the blazing furnace." Therefore, as soon as they heard the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, and all kinds of music, all the peoples, nations, and men of every language fell down and worshipped the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. At this time, some astrologers came forward and denounced the Jews. They say to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. You have issued a decree, O king, that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the image of gold, and that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into the blazing furnace. But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, O king. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of God you have set up."
Hey, Brenda, I'm going to pause you there just because the
Mhm,
story is a long one. So for
mhm.
everybody to be on board, what's happening here? Let's just get like a cliff notes. What's happening thus far?
There are some haters who just want to no. uh, King Nebuchadnezzar has I think he had a dream before, and so now he makes this image of him, like of gold. I think it's an image of himself, and everyone is supposed to bow down and praise it. So it's become the new god
Right.
of Babylon, and everyone from every province, which is tons of them, every human being is required by law, by Babylonian law, to worship this image. And
Okay.
then there are snitches in there.
Snitches.
Yep.
Snitches get stitches. MJ. Thanks, Brenda.
Um, I had also recently read the chapter before where he's interpreting the dream. So he has tells him he has the dream where he has the statue and has the gold head and then the bronze and then so on and so forth. And then he goes and makes the statue after he was just like prophesized kind of that it's going to be destroyed. He was like, okay, I'll make that exact thing and then have everyone worship it.
Yes. She covers her face. Cindy.
That's
He had,
crazy.
he probably had frontotemporal lobe dementia.
She had to go there.
Shout out.
Okay. So these guys, remember, they're in exile. So
Mhm.
now they're in front of this king who has created this
Ah.
statue, and everybody must do this and bow down because
Mhm,
I'm somebody, basically. I
mhm,
am
mhm,
somebody. So they're faced with, do I do this or do I
mhm,
not?
mhm.
What decision have they made? And we're going to go into the rest of their story in a moment. What decision?
They've chosen
They're
not
not
to.
doing it.
They've chosen not to. So if we go back to our clay analogy, God
Mhm.
has summoned them
Mhm.
to a very particular task in life. Now, they could have pushed back and said, oh, no, I'm going to just bow down and get this over with. But they
Mm.
allowed God's hand on the clay of their lives to continue to
Mm.
form where it was going to go. This is where we tend to step in and try to alter where God is taking us. But we see something in these three boys, and I say boys because that's how they're referred to, which means they're between probably 13 and 20.
Mm.
These three boys had a little something in their tank that they were willing to say, I'm going to let God direct my life. Brenda, can you go ahead and pick it up where you left off, please?
Mhm. So I'm in verse 13. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods and or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of the horn, flutes, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, O King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up.
Pause
Then
again.
sorry.
Let's talk about it. What just jumped out? She
Ooh,
just read some juicy stuff in there. What are we seeing in these guys?
these guys are brave.
Yeah, totally.
Why? Why do you say that?
Their conversation with King Nebuchadnezzar, they're like, they know who their God is. And then they also say, and by the way, if it doesn't come through, we still will not follow your law. Like we will not bow down to your gods. Because to them, it's like, we know who our God is.
Right,
And you can't put him to the test in that way.
right. Yes. Look in verse 17. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve, what? What does it say?
Will rescue us from.
Able to save us.
Is able.
The God we serve is able
Oh,
to
oh,
deliver.
mm,
Remember, we looked in Isaiah 43.
mhm,
He gave them two pasts and a future.
mhm, mhm,
Why? To show them that he's delivered before.
mm,
We have proof, guys, that God has delivered. Do we believe it? Do we hold on
mhm,
to it? They
mhm,
held on to, okay, the God we serve can deliver. Because when
mhm,
my people, even though they weren't there, passed through the sea, he delivered. When my people, even though we weren't there, passed through the Jordan River, he delivered.
mm,
It's like they
mhm,
held on to not just educationally. Sometimes we can be so brainy, full of brainiac.
mhm,
We
mhm,
know a lot, but we don't
mhm.
necessarily believe a lot.
Yeah.
They had to have both. They knew the past, but they also obviously believed the past because they said, if we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from it.
Mhm,
But, but, even if
mhm,
he does not,
mhm.
that's a whole different thing. What does
Yeah.
that show us about him?
Conviction and
Mm,
integrity are the two
mm,
words coming to my mind.
mhm,
Conviction,
Mhm.
integrity. Has
mhm,
what you've experienced, what you've learned, what you've seen, what you've gone through brought about conviction and
Mm,
integrity. If it
mm,
has not,
mhm,
then it's learned. It's in our
mm,
heads. It's not in our hearts. Remember, God, He said, I created you and I formed you. He's transforming us.
mm,
He's not just trying to fill us with knowledge. He says, I'm trying to transform you
mm,
because when you go through what you're going to go through, you have to have something to stand on. Exactly what Tabney is saying. They had something to stand on because it had been put to the test and they had said, yes, I believe it.
mm,
Not just in my head, I believe it. What else would allow these boys to stand up against this king with this kind of threat upon their lives? The belief has to be more than just mental feel good. Wow. We can get caught up in something that makes us feel good, but it doesn't mean it's something we can stand on. So, but even if he does not, we want you to know we will not
mm.
serve your God. Brenda, go ahead and pick it up. Finish us off.
Okay,
Verse
verse
19.
19. Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual and commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these men, wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent that the furnace was so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leapt to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire? They replied, certainly, O king. He said, look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the fourth looks like the son of the gods. Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here, sorry. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their heads singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, praise the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angels and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any God except their own God. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be cut into pieces and their houses turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon.
That's a lot.
That's
Let's
a
talk
lot.
about it. What stands out for you in this whole section, especially this ending? Let's talk about this end. What
Okay.
jumps out at you and why? What do you see?
like like Cindy said, Nebuchadnezzar had a frontal lobe issue because I'm like, wait, he knew the God of like the Most High God. He had been told about him by Daniel, and now he's coming around and he's like, oh, that's the God. Well, when you were throwing them in the fire, you didn't credit their God. Anyways, sorry, I couldn't help. Like, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Bridget?
I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. I'd say at the end, um, they might have gone into the fire, but they didn't come out smelling like it, looking like it, like they came out, I would say, sort of going back to Isaiah like redeemed, like they weren't touched.
Yeah. Yes. Victoria.
What stood out to me was with the two pasts and then the present, these were people that went through these things. King Nebuchadnezzar didn't have a past of experience. He had nothing to stand on. He had an interpreted dream. He
Mhm.
had, little things like that, but not anything to the magnitude of seeing men in a fire and not being burned. After that, he had something to stand on. And then the choice was to either stand on it or to not. But he didn't have anything to stand on before. And he never would have had anything to stand on if they would not have had to go through what they went through. So what they went through caused another man, it's also beautiful, caused
Yeah.
another man to have the experience that God was real.
Yes. Beautifully said, Victoria. You guys catch that?
Mhm.
Everyone goes through something. And I don't know all of it. Now I have to go back and study it. So thank you for opening that up for me. Now I got to go back and really study out Nebuchadnezzar's journey. But he needed something that turned him around, to give him something, as Victoria stated, to stand on. What if your walk through the fire is not just for you?
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say. I never really, I focused so much on what those three went through. And I feel like that's where the country saying comes from. You don't look like what you've been through, because they were
Right.
physically inflamed. But now you all are pointing out about how they helped Nebuchadnezzar. And I'm thinking of the phrases about how our purpose is not just tied to us.
Hmm.
And so if we are disobedient, then there's somebody, it could be in mere moments or a few years, that are waiting on us to stay faithful and obedient to have their deliverance and their development. And I'd have never gotten that until today, in
Yes,
regards to this chapter.
absolutely. Absolutely. This is
I'm
it,
also seeing Pharaoh in here. Like there's a Pharaoh because Nebuchadnezzar is, yeah. Anyways, I'm seeing a Pharaoh reference here.
Cindy. Yes, Brenda. Thank you. Cindy.
Yeah, I think what Victoria said was really, I had not thought of it from that angle either. But it's interesting because in the next chapter, he ends up losing his mind and living like an animal for like 7 years.
Hmm.
And it's prophesied, and it's in chapter 4. So his heart didn't really change, but he did see something that
Mhm.
probably God built on. But what really stood out for me was how the three of them stayed together as a team, because
Mhm.
they said, "We want you to know."
Mhm.
So they were very cohesive.
Mhm.
So they were shoring each other up. Just think of all three of them with their backs to each other, like when you see those fighting films and everybody's got their sword, there's all these guys coming at them, but their backs are to each other.
Right.
So
Yeah.
defending themselves. So I just thought that was really good. We
Okay.
want you to, they were like of one mind,
Right.
Mhm.
and they were
Right.
willing, and they knew Nebuchadnezzar because they had been taken from captivity. They saw the brutality of the
Mhm.
Yes.
Babylonians, the siege, the whole thing. You can go read about it, and it's just gnarly.
Right.
So they knew this guy was not clowning around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
But they
Very
felt
true.
like I would rather trust. Oh, it's almost like what David said. I'd rather fall into the hands of God than to the
Mhm.
hands of men. And it just takes my breath away when I think about it.
Yeah. Victoria, I see your hand. Thanks, Cindy.
Well, and after he saw that, he saw it, so he had the knowledge.
Hmm.
But he was told when you will, this is what's going to happen. And so, in order for him to remember, he had to go through it. So, he saw it with the other people, but he didn't experience it himself. Then he experienced it after he was told. It's just an amazing story.
Yes. Yes. And you see the juxtaposition, and Angel, I'll come to you in a second. You see people who have experienced it, believe it, and walk in it. And then you have those, Nebuchadnezzar, who has seen it, he's heard of it, but he has chosen not to walk in it. And we have that choice. Each and every one of us, some of us have been through more than others, so maybe some of us have experienced more than others. So some of us on the screen are in the I've been through it and I've seen it for myself. And some of us on the screen have I've heard about it, but I haven't experienced for myself. But that's not the deciding factor. The deciding factor is what am I going to do with it? And Nebuchadnezzar, as Cindy pointed out, as we see, goes crazy later
Mm.
because it's almost like I've seen too much
Mm.
not to respond. And I ask us, have we seen too much not to respond?
Mm.
Because we are then choosing to be Nebuchadnezzar rather than I've seen too much not to respond and becoming more like the three boys. Angel, I think it was you, had a hand up.
Yeah, it's sticking out to me too that their actions follow their words because
Mhm.
it's brave already to say like whether my God comes through or not, we still
Mm.
won't worship your God. But
Mhm.
also when they're talking about tying them up and throwing them in the furnace, there's nothing mentioned of them fighting them. There's nothing mentioned of because like I said, like it's one thing to say it, but then when they actually go to do it, to not fight off, to not try
Mm.
and get away, to like to not try and talk yourself out of it, like, oh, just kidding, I'll do whatever you want because now it's getting real. Um,
Mhm.
to just willingly, like, not only say what they believe, but to follow through with their actions.
Mm.
I think that on top of them coming out of, I felt like he was kind of testing them, like, okay, you say that, but
Mm.
what about when I really do it? And then they didn't
Mm.
fight. And then they come out of the fire unscathed. And all of those things together, like something, even if it didn't all change overnight in that moment, something in seeing all of that, like, made something click of
Mm.
like, because like I said, I mean, I think about myself and words are one thing, but to actually like stand firm in it physically
Mm.
and go through with it, even if they're probably afraid still, because they're putting out there, he might not come through.
Mm.
We might be burned. To not, even if they're probably afraid or they don't really know what the outcome is, they still stood by what they said. So, I mean,
Mm.
that's like a whole other level
Yes,
of faith.
yes. There's a word that comes through in Daniel 3 that also came through in Isaiah. I don't know if you picked up on it. And that word was summoned. He repeats it. He said in Isaiah, I summoned you by name. And then we hear Nebuchadnezzar summon like two or three different times in Brenda's reading. And he would summon the precepts and the satraps and da 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 da. Summon means what? What does it mean to summon someone by name?
Call, call them. Call them to a presence. Like you have to like actually show up and stand in front of me.
Hmm.
Yes,
Report.
yes,
Call
I
to
think of a
report.
court summons.
Mhm.
If you don't show up, you're in contempt.
yes. It is
It's like what a
specific,
king will do. You do not say no to the king.
right?
Mhm.
It is specifically for you. When he summons Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it was specifically for them. It's like they knew this was my calling. I can't hand it off to someone else. I can't, maybe, maybe not. This is a calling on my life. As Cindy said, if it's a court summon, you're going, or you're getting in trouble for not going. So we're
Mhm.
looking at this going, God says, I am summoning you. There's a summon on your life. And how we look at it would determine whether we show up or not show up. In the case in Isaiah, he said, you're going to take Jacob and Israel with you. And I looked up the names just because I love names in scriptures because they do mean something. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Remember, they were in exile, they were in captivity, so their names were changed. That wasn't their
Mhm.
original names. I can't pronounce them because I'm not good like that, like Cindy and Brenda, but
Azaria. Yeah.
but let's just go.
Okay.
Hananiah, Hananiah,
Yeah. Hananiah.
Hananiah.
Hananiah is Shadrach, which means
Yeah.
beloved of the Lord.
Mm.
Mishael, if I'm pronouncing that,
Michelle.
that's Meshach, which means
Mhm.
who is like God.
Mm.
And then Azariah,
Mhm.
Abednego, means the Lord is my help.
Mm.
So these three boys,
Oh,
before they were taken from captivity into
Mhm.
Babylon, they had a foundation rooted
Mm.
in God. The Lord is my help, who is
Mhm.
like God and
Mhm.
beloved by God.
Mm.
Those are the three boys we're talking about. What would our names be if God attached himself to our names?
Mm.
Because we want to walk into our fire not
Mm.
as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which
Mhm.
meant something completely different.
Yes.
We want to walk in it in our Babylonian names, or I'm sorry, we want to walk in it in our true God names.
Mm.
When we walk into our fires, because we will, because he didn't say if, he said
Mhm.
when.
When? Mm.
You need to know who you are walking into it.
Mm.
The boys we admire so much in this story really isn't Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Mhm.
mm-mm.
It's those
No.
three Hebrew
It's
boys who
Hananiah. Let
had
me see.
heard about all that their God had done,
Mm.
past, and they counted on it in the future.
Present.
We've got to make sure we have something to hold on to. What deposits have been made into your spiritual account that you need to go back and go, okay, that's two past, and that's going to help me with my future. I may not have hit it yet, but I'm going to go into a fire and I need to be able to hold on to something. Interesting enough, before I close it out, Daniel 3, how many boys were put in the fire?
Three,
3,
Three went into the fire. How many did he see?
4,
4.
Nebuchadnezzar saw four. How many came
Mhm.
out?
3.
3.
Where's that other one? Where's that fourth one?
He's the son of the god, so he didn't. He
Passed it to another
miraculously
boy.
flew back.
He's still in the fire.
Mm.
He stayed in the
Mm.
fire
Mm. He took it off of
because
them.
when we pass through the fire, he knows
Obedience.
we're going to be passing through a fire.
Mm.
And he wants us to know, I'm already in here.
Mm.
I'm waiting for you.
Mm.
He didn't come out with them. He let them out.
Mm.
But three went in, four were seen, three came out. So I look at that and go, God, whatever my fire is, you're already in there waiting for me.
Mm.
The purpose of the fire, obviously, it didn't singe their hair, their skin. It didn't burn them in the least bit. What did the fire do?
To strengthen their faith. Like it's almost like Corinthians, how Paul comes back in and says, fan into flame your faith, something like that. So it
Mhm.
was really to strengthen their faith and almost to be a vindication that yes, your faith is grounded in the right stuff. Your convictions weren't misplaced. Uh,
Yeah. Physically, you know what the fire did?
it cleansed them.
It took away, it clipped off their bounds. Their hands, when they came out, were no
Mhm.
longer bound.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Really, the fire took away
Mhm.
what bound them.
Mm.
That was the only thing that the fire literally did.
Mm.
It killed those who were putting them in. It did a lot. But as far as the three boys, nothing on their head was singed, nothing took place other than the fact that because it said they were tightly bound, and nobody said they went in with scissors. When they walked out without the bound. The fire, God gave us the fire just to take the bounds off of us.
Yeah. It's as if
Mhm.
it's protection, which is
Yes,
such a wild thing to think about, but it killed the other soldiers who got too close. And we also forget that they were tied up,
yes.
right? So it protected them, restored them, and redeemed, which is one of the words you've been using too.
Going back to that redeemed word.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. We are so busy putting our hands on the clay, trying to keep God from forming what he's trying to form because we're trying to avoid the fire. I don't want to go that direction. I don't want to do that. I don't want. He's going, it is for your protection. It is what's going to cleanse you. I'm in here for you and with you. He is trying to lead us where we do not want to go. That's scripture. We already know that. When we finally stop fighting him, then he becomes the God who created us and the God who forms us. He is the God that will summon us, and we don't get to ask him or tell him where to summon us to. I love going back to the two scriptures. You look at Jacob and Israel were one and the same. Jacob is the man, the person. Israel is the nation that he became. We are all the people. We got the Bridges, the BJs, the Cindy, the Angels, all of us, we're just the girls who have gone through some life. Jacob's backstory was not necessarily perfect and beautiful. Anyone on this screen can talk about your past life. It's not perfect and beautiful. And we want to dismiss it and leave it behind. But God says, give me both. Give me all of that stuff in the past that you rather let go, and let me direct you to a future. But I'm going to bring both of them with you because, as Cindy was talking about the young lady, or young lady, 70 years old, who shared for their Women's Day, all of her past experience was ushered forward to help a Cindy who's sitting there listening to her on Sunday. Whatever our fire is, very much could be, as Victoria pointed out, what Nebuchadnezzar needed to see or experience. They needed to go into the fire for his sake. Some of what we've gone through that we are so busy trying to dismiss, God is saying, I am going to use that, but I need you to get your hands off of it. Let me take you where I need to take you, and then I will use it how I need to use it. The fire is hot. It said it was blazing hot. But all it did, as Tabney pointed out, was protect them and then take away what had them bound. Does it make sense? Amen? It's a lot. Lastly, and then I want to give just some feedback, just because it took me back to our talk from 2 weeks ago. The scepter shall not depart Judah. Remember, I kept going to that scripture. The scepter shall not depart Judah.
Mm-hmm.
These three boys fall into the line of Judah. Study it out. You see, they too fall into the line of Judah. But this was 1200 to 1300 year difference. But again, God's word is true from beginning to the end. When he said the scepter would not depart Judah, and here we are thousands of years later, and these boys are popping up. And if you trace their history, they too are in the line of Judah. God is still doing his thing, still doing his thing, getting us all the way to Jesus, which is where he was taking us. Amen. I just found it so incredible. I was like, whoa, mind blown
This
when I
is
saw the
okay.
connection.
This
What was
is
that, Brenda?
this is so good. Yeah, I think I need to just because if I start, I'm not gonna end. Like but the sept like when you say the September, it's the remnant, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm getting tongue-tied because my brain is like getting all like short-circuiting. But Joseph is sent into Egypt so that Judah can be saved, so that Judah then can so that I and then Daniel and these young men are sent into Babylon so that there's a remnant that actually stays faithful, true to the word, so that when they come back from Babylon, they've told other people to stay true to God so that they come back into Jerusalem and rebuild. And Jesus, okay, I'm done.
Nothing escapes God.
I'm done.
It
Yeah.
is not per chance, guys. It is not coincidence. God has a plan, and I know at times it can feel like, and I know I say this to G all the time, is his story. We're just a player in it,
Yeah.
and that can feel dismissive, and I really don't mean it that way. But what I mean by that is he has a plan, and his plan will come to fruition. We're parts in it, but his plan will come to fruition. We have to trust the plan.
Mhm.
Amen?